Hello, this is Mr. Rahman, and today we're going to be reading Chapter 7 of Iqbal by Francesco D'Adamo. Iqbal was released from the tomb 3 days later. When we saw him walk across the courtyard on wobbly legs, blinded by the light, his arms covered with angry insect bites, we pitied him, but we were proud too. We would have liked to cheer and applaud, but Hussein's grim eyes warned us to keep quiet. The master gave Iqbal a day and a night to rest, and we held back our curiosity and respected his fitful sleep. We took turns watching over him and soothing his pain by sponging him with cool water. We could see that Iqbal would recover quickly, thanks to our nightly visits, the food, the water, and those oranges that Ali had stolen from the garden for him. "Brother," said Salman one morning when Iqbal finally returned to work, "you are really strong. Nobody has ever had the courage to do something like that to Hussein Khan. Do you realize how angry he still is about the carpet?" "But you were foolish. What have you gained by destroying the carpet? 3 days in the tomb, that's all." "You all took risks coming out at night to help me," Iqbal replied. "If the master had discovered you, what would you have gotten out of it?" "What has that got to do with anything?" asked Salman. "We did it for you." "Well," said Iqbal, "and I did it for you, in a certain sense, as well as for me." "What do you mean?" I asked. "It means that this kind of life isn't right. We should return to our families. We shouldn't be chained to our looms and forced to work like slaves." "I'd like to go home too," I said, "but we can't." "Why not?" Because, burst in Salman, "because this master is stronger than us. Because it's always been like this. Because nobody cares about us. We'll find someone to help us. Out there. There must be someone." "Out there? What's going on in your head?" "I don't know," said Iqbal. "You got too much heat down in the tomb, brother." Salman shook his head. "Everybody's too scared here." "That's not true," Iqbal laughed. "You're not afraid anymore. Neither are Fatima and little Ali." "I'm not afraid of anybody," declared Ali, hiding behind my skirt. "Even Kareem is less frightened than before. Isn't that true?" "Don't drag me into your dumb plans," hissed Kareem. "And remember anyway, I'm not afraid of anything." "Not even Hussein?" "I'm not scared of him," Kareem assured us. "I respect him. It's different." "I think the others are less frightened too," Iqbal said. "Back in line! Back in line!" yelled Kareem as he glimpsed the figure of the mistress crossing the courtyard. For the next month, things went as usual, at least on the surface. The days passed, all seemingly identical. The summer became less torrid, and every now and then we could see heat lightning in the night sky, reminding us that the rains were on their way. One of the older boys left with the master one evening, and we never saw him again. Perhaps Hussein had sold him to someone else. Who knows? We were accustomed to this continuous change of faces around us, and we had even learned not to feel very sorry, or at least not to show it. A new boy arrived in his place, tall and thin with a skinny back. You could count his ribs, each one. We immediately named him Twig. After only 2 days, he hurt his hand, which Hussein had to bandage, crying out to heaven, lamenting the bad luck that had pushed him to make such a poor investment. Twig, armed with the broom, was set to cleaning the workshop, the courtyard, and occasionally the master's house. He went back and forth all day, with his arm in a sling, and he raised more dust than he eliminated. That month, an attack of dysentery obliged us to use the little place behind the curtain more often than we liked. Nothing much out of the ordinary, it seemed. But now that I think about it, there was something different, though. With all the work we had to do, we didn't notice it at the time. We worked as usual. We bore Hussein's harsh treatment as usual. Every evening we watched the master take a rag and erase one of the marks on our personal slate and saw the marks remain the same. as usual. But still, the atmosphere inside the workshop had changed. Nobody was working exactly as before. After the lunch break, we re entered the workshop as slowly as possible, dragging our feet and mumbling. During the interminable afternoon hours, our attention was easily distracted. We started talking, and sometimes we even laughed. It took a few minutes for the shouts and threats of Hussein Khan to restore an apparent calm. Twig wandered here and there, raising dust and increasing the general confusion. One day, a loom broke. It was used by Mohammed, the stammering boy from the mountains, and even though Hussein Khan was convinced it had been sabotaged, he had no proof, so he couldn't send Mohammed to the tomb to rot for days. At another room, all the threads tangled, and it took hours to get it working again. Iqbal was calm. The master had ordered him to begin the carpet again, and he was working carefully and precisely, nimbly and quickly, as though nothing had happened. Hussein Khan kept a constant eye on him. He walked grimly around the workshop, his hands behind his back, and every now and then he turned his head quickly to see what Iqbal was doing. Hussein seemed nervous. It was like he was frightened. And the more the carpet grew, the more nervous and irritable he became. But he didn't say a word to Iqbal. Not a word. Hussein's afraid I'll destroy this rug too, said Iqbal, and it'd be a serious loss for him. You won't do anything so stupid, will you? I asked anxiously. Oh no, I don't plan on anything like that, he reassured me. By now, our evening get togethers had become routine. We didn't even wait for the lights to go out in the master's house. As soon as Hussein Khan locked the door and we heard his footsteps cross the courtyard, we left our beds and sat down in a circle. Twig, who was strange and funny, joined our group, and sometimes so did one or two of the others. We should all run away, said Twig. Just think of Hussein's face. I can't stand him. He's almost worse than the master I had before. Let's become bandits and attack the trucks that come into the city. Why the trucks? Because they carry a lot of food. Forget it, said Mohammed. We should escape to the mountains. There the master would never be able to find us. Yeah, and how did he find you? Twig asked. Bad luck. We poured out our feelings, but we still feared that nothing would ever change for us. There was a precise rule among us: never talk about the future. Not a single one of us dared to say next summer, or in a year, or when I am grown up. Oh, yes, we talked about things we'd like to do, and we talked about the day our debt would be canceled. We talked that hope into the ground, but nobody really believed it. It was sort of litany, a way to feel good. Otherwise, what was left to us? Iqbal had been the first brave enough to say loud and clear that the debt is never canceled. And he was the only one to talk concretely about the future. One night, while autumn rains were beating on the roof of the workshop, Iqbal and I sat together. We were always the last two to go to bed. We'd like to stay up and talk. Fatima, he said in a low voice, next spring you and I are going to fly a kite. Remember that, whatever happens. I didn't say anything. What was there to say? I only sensed he was about to do something rash and I wouldn't be able to stop him. He was so little, and yet he was so brave. I said the only thing I could say. Please be careful, Iqbal. The next night, in the middle of a thunderstorm, Iqbal managed to squeeze out of the tight little window behind the filthy curtain at the back of the workshop. He ran through the neighbor's garden, climbed over a wall, and after crossing two more vegetable gardens, he reached the street and disappeared. End of chapter 7.